he finally said. His voice came out rough, unused, like a thing dragged up from a dry well. "Ma'am, you best come inside before you lose toes to this cold. I don't mean to trouble you, mister. Trouble's already here. Come on." He stepped aside. She did not move at first. Her eyes went to his hand, to the revolver he had not yet thought to hide. "That for me?" "No, ma'am." "Then who?" Jack looked down at the gun, then at her, and for reasons he could not name, he told her the truth. "Myself." She did not flinch. She did not gasp or look away or pity him with her eyes the way strangers pity a broken man. She only nodded slow, as if he had told her the time of day. "Then I reckon I came at the right hour, mister." "Or the wrong one." "No, sir, the right one." He tucked the revolver into the back of his belt and pulled the door wider. She stepped across the threshold, and the wind that came in with her near about put out the lamp. "Sit by the fire, ma'am. Ain't much of a fire, but it's what I got. I've had less." She lowered herself into the chair by the hearth, the chair that had belonged to his wife. She did not know that, and Jack did not say it. He watched her hands instead. Red. Cracked. Fingers wrapped white around the handle of that dented pot she would not set down. "You can put that pot on the floor, ma'am." "I'd rather keep it close if it's all the same." "All the same to me." He stood there a while, silent. He did not know what a man was supposed to do. He had not had a guest in 3 years. "You hungry?" "I won't eat what I don't earn." "That ain't what I asked." "I know what you asked." A long beat. The fire snapped. Outside, the wind shoved at the walls. "Name's Jack," he said. "Jack Turner." "Lily Brooks." "Where you come from, Miss Brooks?" "Nowhere worth the telling." "That far, huh?" "Farther." He let it alone. He dug a blanket out of a trunk that had not been opened since winter of the year his boy died. The wool smelled of cedar and the ghost of a woman's hands folding it. He laid it over Lily's shoulders without touching her. She did not thank him in words, only closed her eyes a second too long, the way a person does when she is trying not to cry in front of a stranger. "I got cornmeal," Jack said. "Salt pork. Beans been soaking since Tuesday, might be Wednesday. Ain't much." "That's plenty, mister." "Jack." "Jack." She rose, slow and deliberate, every motion careful, the way a body moves when it has walked farther than it had any right to. She set the dented pot on his table with a soft thud and looked at him for the first time straight on. "Where's your water?" "Back stoop. Bucket." "Your flour?" "Shelf yonder. What's left of it?" "Salt." "In the tin." "I'll manage, Jack." He watched her cross his kitchen. He had not seen a woman cross his kitchen since the fever. She did not bustle or fuss. She moved like a body that had been told to move quieter than it was for years by men who did not want to hear her in their houses. And yet she filled the room, not with sound, with presence, the kind a man feels in the back of his neck before he knows why. "You always cook quiet like that, Miss Brooks." "Lily." "Lily." "I cook the way I'm let." Meaning some folks don't like a woman taking up space in their kitchen. I learned young to take up less. Jack did not answer. He chewed the inside of his cheek. "Ain't nobody in this kitchen but you," he said at last. "I noticed." She stirred the cornmeal into the water, salt from the tin, a piece of the pork sliced thin as a fingernail. She worked with the dented pot, not his own. "Why you keep that pot so close?" "It's mine. Reckon most things in a body's life end up theirs one way or another. Not this one. This one's mine because I paid for it with a black eye." Jack looked up sharp at that. She did not look at him when she said it, kept her eyes on the pot. "Who hit you, Lily?" "A man who thought the pot was his. He's still breathing. Last I knew." "Where?" "Know where you need to go, Jack." "Ma'am, that ain't how I asked." She stopped stirring, set the spoon down careful, turned to him full. "Jack Turner, I come up your mountain on feet that ain't had shoes for 2 days. I ain't asking for a savior. I ain't asking for a husband. I ain't asking for a bed. I'm asking for one night out of the wind, and in return, I will cook you a supper. After that, you'll never see me again if that's the way of it. Don't ask me questions I ain't ready to answer, please. Please, he repeated. Soft. Please. He nodded once. Eat your supper first, Lily. My supper. Our supper. I ain't eaten a plate of hot food and I don't know how long. Reckon I could stand to remember what it tastes like. Reckon you could. She served him first. He noticed that. She served him a full plate and kept the lesser for herself. He noticed that too. He pushed his plate back across the table toward her. Eat. I am. Eat more. Jack. Lily. A long quiet. Then she pulled the plate back to him. Man who brought his supper in out of the cold, don't give it away. Man who was about to die an hour ago can give away whatever he pleases. She looked at him, really looked, and he felt it land. Don't say that light, Jack Turner. I ain't said it light. She sat down, slow, across from him. She folded her hands over the pot handle between them like it was a thing that kept her upright. Eat, she said. He ate, and he could not remember the last time food had tasted like food. He chewed slow, and each bite went down like a small apology to a body he had tried to be done with. Halfway through his hands started shaking so bad he had to set the spoon down. Jack. It's nothin'. It ain't nothin'. I said it's nothin', ma'am. Lily. Lily. She reached across the table, and for a half-second he thought she was going to touch him. She did not. She only laid her hand flat next to his, close enough he could feel the warmth of it coming off her skin. You was gonna pull that trigger tonight. I was. How long you been working up to it? Couple months, maybe more. What made tonight the one? Ran out of reasons not to. And then I knocked. And then you knocked. She nodded. Did not move her hand. I ain't gonna pretend I came here to save you, Jack. I came here 'cause I didn't have nowhere else. But I will say this. I'm glad I knocked when I did. And I'm glad you opened. Me too, ma'am. Lily. Lily. He picked the spoon back up. Ate. She ate too, and he saw how she tried not to let him see the way her hands trembled around her own spoon, how her eyes closed against the heat of the food on her tongue, how a person who has been hungry for a long time eats with her whole body and not just her mouth. Lily. When's the last time you ate? Reckon it don't matter. Reckon it does. Tuesday. Tuesday. Piece of bread off a church windowsill. Weren't stealing. They'd set it out for the birds. Today's Friday, Lily. I know what today is, Jack. He pushed his plate toward her a second time. This time she did not push back. She ate from his plate and hers both. He did not say another word until she had finished every bite. More? No. Belly shrinks when you ain't fed it. Too much too fast, and it comes right back up. You know a lot for a woman don't talk much. Hunger teaches. Reckon so. He cleared the plates. She rose to help, and he shook his head at her. You cooked. I clean. That's the deal in this house. Whose deal? Mine and a ghost's. She did not ask whose ghost. Some questions a body knows not to ask on a first night. He washed the plates in the basin. She stood by the fire, hands held out to the warmth. He watched her from the side of his eye. She did not fill up his wife's chair. She filled up her own shape in his kitchen, and that shape was her own, and the cabin did not complain about it. It was the cabin that had been complaining for 3 years. Tonight, for the first time, it seemed to hush. Lily. You can take the bed. I cannot. You can, and you will. Jack Turner, I come in out of a storm. I ain't gonna put a man out of his own bed. Bed ain't been slept in for 3 years, ma'am. Lily. It don't know the difference between me and you. Why ain't it been slept in? He dried his hands on a rag, set the rag down careful, folded it. My wife died in it. My boy died in the trundle next to it. Fever came through the valley. He had not said those words out loud to another soul. He heard himself say them, and he did not know where they had come from. They felt like something pulled out of him with a hook. "I'm sorry, Jack. Weren't your fault. Sorrow don't need fault to feel sorry." He looked at her. She said it plain like a woman who had said similar things to herself for a long time. "You lose somebody, Lily?" "More than one." "Who?" "Jack." "Lily. Please." He nodded. "Let it lie. Some questions a body knows not to ask on a first night. Take the bed, Lily. I'll take the floor by the fire. You'll take the bed or you'll take the road, and I ain't putting you on the road. You drive a hard bargain, mister." "Jack." "Jack." She took the bed. She would not lie in it proper, not in front of him. She sat on the edge of it with her cookpot beside her on the floor, and her hands in her lap, and her eyes on the boards. Jack carried the blanket from the trunk to her and laid it across her shoulders a second time. "Get some sleep, Lily." "You ain't gonna sleep." "I don't sleep much." "You gonna pick that gun back up tonight, Jack?" He looked at her a long while. He saw the question in her eyes, and he saw that she was not asking it to shame him. She was asking it because she needed to know before she closed her eyes. "No, ma'am, not tonight." "Lily. Lily, not tonight." "You promise?" "I promise." "Good." She lay down slow. She did not pull the blanket up over her face. She lay on her side with her back to the wall, and her eyes on him, and she did not close them for a long time. He took the chair by the fire, put the revolver on the mantel where she could see it from the bed. Within reach of him, but not hid. He saw her eyes go to it. He saw her eyes soften when she understood. "Jack." "Thank you." "For what?" "For opening the door." He did not answer. He could not. His throat had closed up tight. She slept. He knew when she fell off because her breathing changed, went even, went deep. A body that has walked 200 miles falls asleep the way a stone falls in a well. He watched the fire. He watched the door. He did not watch her. It did not seem right to watch her. Sometime before dawn, she cried out in her sleep. One word. Sharp. A name he did not know. Sarah. Then she was quiet again. Jack sat in the chair and let the word settle on him. Sarah. He did not know who Sarah was. He knew that whoever Sarah had been, she was not walking the earth anymore, because the way Lily had said the name was the way a body says a name, it is still burying. He did not sleep. When the gray first started pushing at the window, Lily stirred. He heard her sit up. He did not turn. Jack. You kept your promise. I said I would. Lots of men say they will. I ain't lots of men, ma'am. Lily. I know. She rose. He heard her lift the pot. He heard her cross to the water bucket. He heard her push up her sleeves. What you doin', Lily? Making breakfast. You don't owe me another meal. I ain't paying you, Jack. I'm feeding you. Ain't that the same thing? No. He turned then. She was at his stove. Her hair was pulled back with a strip of rag. Her sleeves were up to the elbow. She had found his last 2 eggs in the crock on the shelf. He had not known he still had eggs. She had. Where'd you find them eggs, Lily? Where you left 'em. I didn't know I had 'em. A kitchen tells on a man, Jack Turner. Tells what? Tells whether anybody's been lovin' him or whether he's been livin' on the bones of what a dead woman left behind. He did not answer that. He could not. He stood up from the chair and walked out onto the porch, and he stood in the cold, and he held onto the rail with both hands until the shake in his chest passed. When he came back inside, she did not ask where he had gone. She set a plate in front of him. 2 eggs. A piece of yesterday's cornbread crisped up in the pork grease. A cup of something hot that was not quite coffee but close. Eat, Jack. Lily. Eat. He sat. He ate. She sat across from him with her own plate smaller, and she ate too. And for a long time, neither of them spoke because speaking would have broken the thing that was happening at that table, which was that two people who had not eaten breakfast with another soul in a long, long time were eating breakfast with another soul. When he was done, he pushed his plate back careful. He looked at her across the table. Lily. How long you planning on being on the road today? Soon as I wash these plates. And where you going? Nowhere, Jack. That's the honest answer. Then stay. She stopped. Her hand on the plate stopped. Her eyes came up slow. Stay. A spell. Week, 2. Long as you need. I don't take charity, mister. Jack? Jack. I don't take charity. Then don't take it. There's a fence out back wants mendin'. I can't get to one-handed. There's a cow about to drop a calf I don't know how to birth. There's a cabin that ain't been a home in 3 years, and you turned it into one in a night, ma'am, and I am asking you, not offering you to stay. I am asking. Her hand stayed on the plate. Her eyes did not leave him. You know what you're asking, Jack Turner. I know I'm asking you to stay. You don't know me. I know you walked 200 miles with a pot and a blanket you didn't have. I know you didn't look away when I told you what was under my chin. I know you served me first when you ain't ate since Tuesday. I know enough. There's things about me, Jack. There's things about everybody. There's a man. I figured. He ain't done with me. He'll have to come through the door to finish it. He will, Jack. Then he will. She looked down at her hands, at the plate, at the dented pot by her foot, at the door, at him. A long while she looked at all of it, and then she nodded. Once, slow. A spell then. A spell. I earn my keep. You'll earn it. And if he comes, he comes. She nodded again. She picked up the plate. She carried it to the basin. She washed it. He watched her wash it, and he did not pick up the revolver off the mantel, and he did not think about the revolver on the mantel, and for the first morning in 3 years, the cabin was quiet because it was full, not because it was empty. Outside the sun came up over the ridge, and a ranch that had been dying for a long time took one breath that felt for the first time like the start of something instead of the end. The calf came sideways. Jack had his arm into the shoulder, and he was losing her. Lily. I'm here. I need another pair of hands and I ain't got 'em. You got mine. This ain't a woman's. Jack Turner, you finish that sentence, and I walk back to that cabin. He did not finish the sentence. Roll up your sleeve. Already rolled. Other one too. Jack. Do it. She did it. She knelt in the straw beside him, and she did not flinch at what she saw. He had seen women flinch at less. Put your hand where mine is. Where? Here. Feel that? That's a hoof. That's the wrong hoof. I feel it. I need you to push while I pull. When? On 3. On 3. 1. Jack. 2. Jack, the cow's eyes are rolling back. I know it. 3. They pushed and pulled, and the calf turned in the mother, the way a man turns in a narrow hall, and the cow bellowed, and Lily did not let go, and the hoof that had been backwards came forward. Again. Again. Now. The calf slid into Jack's hands, wet and black and still. He laid it in the straw. It did not breathe. Jack. Hush. He cleared the mouth with his thumb. He rubbed the chest with both hands hard, harder the way his daddy had shown him when he was 10 years old. Come on. Jack. Come on, damn you. Jack, it ain't. The calf coughed. Lily made a sound like a laugh that was not a laugh. Jack sat back on his heels, and he put both bloody hands over his face, and for a second, Lily thought he was going to fall apart right there in the straw. You done good, Lily. I ain't done nothin'. You done more than nothin'. Get up off the ground before you catch a chill. She did not get up. She was looking at the calf. She was looking at the way it pushed its nose against its mother's flank. She was looking at the way the cow turned her great head and licked it and knew it. Lily, I'm fine. Lily, you're crying. I said I'm fine, Jack. He let her be. He had enough sense for that. They walked back to the cabin with the sun not yet high. She washed her arms in the basin, and she washed them twice, and she did not speak. He did not press her. Bread'll rise by noon, she said finally. I said it before we went out. You set bread to rise before a calf was born. Bread don't care what else is happenin'. Reckon it don't. She almost smiled. He saw it. She caught it before it came, but he saw it. By midday, the bread was on the table. By midday, a horse was on the trail. Jack heard it first. He was a man who had learned to hear hooves at a distance the way other men learned to hear their own names called. Lily. I hear it. Go on in the back room. No! Lily! I ain't hiding in your back room like something you're ashamed of, Jack Turner. Ain't got nothing to do with shame. Then what? He did not answer her. He walked to the mantel. He took down the revolver. He did not load it in front of her. He loaded it on the porch. The rider was Silas Vance, nearest neighbor 4 miles down the pass. Jack had not laid eyes on him in 9 months. Jack. Silas. You got smoke comin' out your chimney at noon. I do. Ain't had smoke comin' out your chimney at noon in 3 years. No, sir, I ain't. Silas's eyes went past him, to the door, to the woman who had stepped out onto the porch behind him and who stood with her hands folded in front of her apron and who did not hide behind him. Afternoon, ma'am. Afternoon, sir. Silas Vance. I run the place down the pass. Lily Brooks? Brooks? Brooks. Silas chewed the inside of his cheek. Jack saw him chew it. Jack had known Silas Vance for 11 years, and he had never once seen the man chew his cheek before he spoke. Brooks from where, ma'am? Nowhere worth the tellin', Mr. Vance. Funny thing, 3 days back a fella come through town askin' after a Brooks woman. Jack's hand went to his belt. Slow, easy. Silas saw it and did not comment on it. What kind of fella, Silas? Not the kind a man brings his wife to meet Jack. He give a name, Pike, Caleb Pike. Lily did not move. Jack felt her not moving the way a man feels a horse go still under him before it bolts. He say what he wanted, Silas. Said he was looking for what was owed him. And the town said they ain't seen no Brooks woman. The town lie good. The town lie passable. Obliged. Don't be obliged to me yet, Jack. Man like that don't come up the mountain once and go home. No, sir, I don't reckon he does. Silas touched his hat. To Jack. Then to Lily. Longer to Lily. A tip of the brim that was not curiosity and was not pity. It was the tip of a hat that said, I see you standin' there, and I ain't going to be the one tells him where you are. Ma'am? Mr. Vance. If you need a place that ain't this one, my wife would have you. She'd have you without a question asked. Obliged, Mr. Vance, but I'm stayin'. Figured you'd say that. Why'd you figure? 'Cause you ain't the sort puts a man out of his own fight, ma'am. A body can tell. He rode off. Jack and Lily stood on the porch a long while after the hoofbeats were gone. Neither spoke. Finally Lily did. How long you reckon we got, Jack? Week, maybe less. Less. All right. She went back inside. He stood on the porch with the revolver still in his hand, and he looked down the pass the way Silas had gone, and past where Silas had gone, and further still toward the country she had come up from. And he knew in his bones that Caleb Pike was already saddling his horse. He came in. He set the revolver on the mantel. He looked at the woman at his table who was slicing bread and whose hands were not shaking the way a woman's hands shake when she is scared. Lily. Your hands ain't shakin'. No, sir, they ain't. How come? Because I ain't surprised Jack. Who is he? She cut another slice of bread. Careful, even. He's a man who paid my debt 6 years ago, and then he made me the debt. Paid what debt? Doctor's bill. My daughter's. Jack did not speak. He knew when to not speak. Sarah. Sarah. She was 6. Fever. Same fever took half the country, Jack. Same fever as yours, I reckon, only a year later in a state over. I didn't have the money. He did. He paid it. She died anyway. Lily. He come back a month after we buried her. Said the money was still owed. Said I was the payment. And you went. I went. I didn't have sense. I didn't have family. I didn't have a nail to my name. He fed me. He put a roof over me. And every day for 6 years he reminded me what I cost him and what I was worth and what a woman my size was lucky to be took in for. Lily. I ran 3 weeks ago, Jack. I walked more miles than I can count. I was planning to lay down in the snow somewhere up this mountain and be done with it. That's the honest truth. I weren't planning on a door. He did not reach for her. He wanted to. He did not. Sarah was the name you called in your sleep. She was. My boy was Samuel. Samuel. Samuel Turner. 4 years old. Blue eyes like his mama's. Laugh like a bell. Fever took him Tuesday and his mama Friday, and I buried him Sunday, and I ain't said either of their names out loud since. Jack. Samuel. Jack. I'm all right. You ain't. I know I ain't. She did not reach for him either. She slid a piece of bread across the table. He took it. He ate it. His hands shook around it. Hers did not. He saw that her hands were steady now, and he understood that her hands were steady because she had finally told another soul the name of her daughter, and his hands were shaking because he had finally said the name of his son. A body trades that kind of grief. Splits it. Carries half. Lily? We're going into town tomorrow. Jack, that ain't. Hear me out. If Pike's asking after you and the town's lying, he's gonna come back with more men, and he's gonna come harder. I need powder. I need shot. I need to know which men in that town'll stand and which'll run. And I need 'em to see you on my arm, so there ain't no question whose roof you're under when he rides in. They'll talk Jack. Let 'em talk. They'll say things about me, about my size, about a widower taken up with a... Let 'em say it. Ain't a one of 'em gonna say it twice in front of me. Jack Turner. Yes, ma'am. You are a damn fool. Yes, ma'am. They went the next morning. Town was Creed. 3 streets, a church, a mercantile, a saloon that a decent woman did not enter. Jack walked Lily past the saloon without looking at it. He walked her to the mercantile. Mrs. Hollis at the counter. Mrs. Hollis, who had buried Jack's wife and who had washed his boy's small body for the grave 3 years back. Mrs. Hollis, who had not seen Jack Turner, set foot in her store since. Jack? Ma'am. Jack Turner. Yes, ma'am, it's me. Who's this? This is Miss Lily Brooks. She's staying at the ranch. Mrs. Hollis looked Lily over, head to foot, slow. Lily stood the way a woman stands who has been looked at that way before and who has learned not to shrink from it. Her chin did not drop. Her shoulders did not round. Jack watched her stand there, and something in him rose up hot. Mrs. Hollis's eyes softened. Welcome to Creed, Miss Brooks. Obliged, Mrs. Hollis. You stayin' long. Long as Jack'll have me. I reckon that's a good while then. There was a man at the far end of the counter, thin, unshaven, had been drinking at 10 in the morning. He laughed. It was not a friendly laugh. Jack Turner done traded up in size, looks like. Jack did not turn around. Walk away, Hank. I'm just sayin'. Widower gets lonely. Reckon any port in a storm. Even a wide one. Jack turned around. He turned around slow. He did not raise his voice. He did not raise his hand. He walked the length of the counter, and he stopped 1 pace from the man who had spoken, and he looked down at him the way a man looks at something he has already decided about. Hank. Jack. You're going to apologize to the lady. I was just, You're going to apologize to the lady, and then you're going to walk out of this store, and then you and me ain't going to cross paths again in this town. Not on the street. Not in the church. Not in the saloon. Not nowhere. Do you understand me? Jack, it was a joke. Do you understand me, Hank? Hank understood him. Ma'am, I apologize. Accepted, sir. Ma'am. Sir. Hank walked out. The bell over the door rang once and once only. Mrs. Hollis did not speak for a long moment. Then she turned to Lily, and she put both hands flat on her counter. Miss Brooks. Ma'am. I buried Jack Turner's wife. I washed his boy for the grave. I ain't seen him inside 4 walls that weren't his own in 3 years. And he walked in here this morning with you. Yes, ma'am. You ever need a place that ain't the ranch, you come to me. Here, I hear, ma'am. Good. Jack bought his powder. Jack bought his shot. Jack bought a bolt of calico the color of new corn because Lily's eyes lingered on it for 1/2 second, and she did not ask for it, and she would not have asked for it if they had stood there an hour. He laid it on the counter with the rest. Jack. It's for the kitchen curtain. Jack Turner, we ain't got a kitchen curtain. We will. Mrs. Hollis wrapped it up. On the ride home, Lily did not speak for 3 miles. In the 4th mile, she said without looking at him, Nobody ever bought me calico, Jack. Man who don't buy a woman calico when her eye catches on it ain't paying attention, Lily. Nobody ever paid attention, Jack. Somebody's paying attention now. She did not answer that. She reached over on the wagon seat and she laid her hand on the back of his. She did not hold it. She laid it there. He did not move his hand out from under hers. He drove the rest of the way with her palm on his knuckles and the calico wrapped on the bench between them. That night she hung the curtain at the kitchen window with string and 2 small nails. It was crooked. She did not fix it. He did not fix it. The crooked curtain hung there like a promise neither of them would say out loud. They ate stew. She told him about Sarah in pieces. How Sarah had loved birds. How Sarah had sung to the chickens like they understood her. How Sarah had died in her arms on a Thursday afternoon with the window open and the curtains moving. How Lily had buried her daughter in a blue dress because blue had been her color, and there had not been enough money for a coffin, and Lily had carried her in her own arms to the grave because there had not been a man in her life that day to do it. Jack. Yes, Lily. I ain't never told another livin' soul I carried her to the grave myself. I'm honored you told me. I ain't tellin' you to be honored. I'm honored anyway. He told her about Samuel, about the laugh like a bell, about the boy asking for water the last night, and Jack bringing it in a tin cup, and the boy not being strong enough to hold the cup, and Jack holding it to his lips. About how he had kept the tin cup. It was in the trunk. He had not taken it out in 3 years. Will you take it out, Jack? I don't know. When you're ready. When I'm ready. She did not press him. The fire burned low. She rose to bank it. He watched her bank the fire the way a woman banks a fire in her own kitchen. She was not a guest anymore. Neither of them had said it. Both of them knew it. Lily. Pike. I know. He's comin'. I know. We got maybe 4 days. All right. You scared? I been scared for 6 years, Jack. I ain't scared the way I was. I'm scared the way a body is scared when she's finally got something to lose. Something to lose. Yes, Jack. All right. All right. She went to the bed. He went to the chair. The revolver was on the mantel. Neither of them looked at it. Neither of them needed to. Before she lay down, she stopped at the foot of the bed. She turned. She looked at him across the room, and in the low light of the banked fire, her face was not the face of a woman on a stranger's porch with a dented pot. It was the face of a woman in her own house. Jack Turner. Yes, Lily. Whatever comes up that mountain, it comes up to both of us. Yes, ma'am. Lily. Lily. She lay down. She slept. He sat in the chair and he watched the banked coals pulse like a slow heart, and he understood with a clarity he had not felt in 3 long years that he was no longer a man waiting to die. He was a man with something to bury the next fool who tried to take it from him. And 4 miles down the pass with the night wind at his back, Caleb Pike was already on the trail. Pike did not ride alone. He rode with 4 men and a piece of paper, and the paper was worse than the men. Jack saw them come up the pass at the second bend. He had been expecting one rider. He counted 5, and his stomach went cold in a way it had not gone cold since the fever. Lily. I see him. Inside. Jack. Inside Lily, not to hide, to load. She went inside. She did not argue. He had not expected her to. He met them in the yard, revolver on his hip, rifle across his arms. He did not raise it. He held it the way a man holds a tool he has not yet decided to use. That's far enough. Pike reined up. 15 paces from the porch. His men spread behind him in a loose half-circle. Jack counted the guns. 4 rifles. 5 pistols. He did not count his own. You, Turner. I am. Caleb Pike. I know who you are. Then you know why I'm here. I know what you think, yeah. Pike smiled. It was the smile of a man who had not been told no in a long time, and who had stopped expecting to hear it. Turner. Let's be grown men about this. I come for what's mine. You hand her out. I ride off. Nobody on this mountain has to bleed today. She ain't yours. She is mine. I got paper says so. Paper don't own people, Pike. Ain't done since '65. This ain't that kind of paper. Pike reached slow into his coat. Jack's rifle came up 2 inches. Pike froze, then lifted the paper out with 2 fingers like a man showing a card. Debt note, signed, witnessed, 6 years old, $240 doctor's services, 1 Sarah Brooks deceased, payable by Lily Brooks or her labor. She agreed to the labor. She walked off it 3 weeks ago. That makes her a thief, Turner. I ain't here for a woman. I'm here for a thief. She ain't a thief. Law says different. Which law? Any law'll read that paper. Then go get one. Pike's smile thinned. Turner. I didn't come up this mountain to fetch a marshal. No, sir, you didn't. You come up this mountain with 4 men 'cause you know a marshal had laughed that paper out of a courtroom. A doctor's bill ain't a slave deed. A dead child ain't collateral. You come up here 'cause the only law you got is the one you brought with you in holsters. That's enough. It ain't half enough. Jack heard the door open behind him. He did not turn. He knew the sound of her step. Lily, go back inside. No, Jack. Lily. I said no. She came down the porch steps. She had the old shotgun across her arms. She had never fired one in her life. He had taught her the loading of it 2 days ago, and she had listened the way a woman listens when she knows the listening will matter. Pike's eyes went to her and stayed. Lily, girl. Don't. Lily, come on off that porch. This don't have to go hard. I'm already off the porch, Caleb. Come to the horse then. We'll go home. That weren't home. Lily, you listen to me, Caleb Pike. I spent 6 years not saying a word back to you. I'm gonna say 'em all now, and I'm gonna say 'em once. You did not save my daughter. You took a bill and you made it a chain. You fed me and you called it kindness, and you put your hands on me and you called it owed. You ain't a man. You're a ledger that learned to walk. Pike's face changed. A woman who has been silent for 6 years when she finally speaks with a voice that does not belong to her anymore. It belongs to every day she did not speak. Jack heard it. Pike heard it. Pike's men heard it, and 2 of them shifted in their saddles in a way that said they had not been told the whole story before they rode up this pass. You done, Lily? I'm done. Then I'm going to ask you one more time. Ask me 100 more times. Answers the same. Last time, Lily. Answers the same, Caleb. Pike looked at Jack. Turner. You are about to die for a woman you known a week. 2 weeks. You are about to die for a woman you known 2 weeks. Reckon I am. Why? Jack thought about the question. He thought about it longer than Pike expected him to. Because I was gonna die for nothing, Pike. At least this way I die for something. Pike's hand twitched toward his hip. He did not draw. Not yet. Because the man on Pike's left, the youngest of his men, a boy really not more than 19, had spoken up from the back of the line in a voice that was trying to be steady and was not. Mr. Pike? Shut up, Wills. Mr. Pike, you didn't say nothing about no child. You said a runaway cook. Shut up, Wills. You said she stole from you. She did steal from me. Mr. Pike. Wills. You say one more word, I'm gonna put a hole in you before I put one in him. Wills shut up. But Wills did not put his horse forward. He held it half a length back from the other three. Jack saw that. Lily saw it too. Pike turned back to Jack. Turner, I'm gonna count to 3. Don't. 1. Pike, don't. 2. A rifle fired from the trees above the trail. Not at Pike. Not at anyone. Into the dirt, 6 feet in front of Pike's horse. The horse reared. Pike fought it down. Silas Vance's voice came down through the pines. Afternoon, gentlemen. Who in hell? Silas Vance. I run the place down the pass. There's 6 rifles on you from this ridge, Mr. Pike. I ain't gonna tell you where the other 5 are. I'm gonna tell you that if you draw on my neighbor, I am going to personally put a hole through your hat and then your head in that order. Pike's head did not turn, only his eyes. Up the ridge, down the other side. A man counting odds he had not counted on. Vance. Mr. Pike. This ain't your fight. Mister, you rode onto the wrong mountain. Every fight up here is my fight. I got paper. So does my outhouse. One of Pike's men laughed. He cut it off fast when Pike's head snapped around, but the laugh had been out of his mouth already and could not be called back. Jack spoke then. Quiet. Even. The voice of a man who has stopped being afraid. Pike, you got 3 ways this ends. 1, you ride back down that pass the way you come, and I never see your face again. 2, you go get a marshal, and you bring him back, and he reads that paper, and he laughs you back down that pass. 3, you draw that pistol, and Silas puts a hole in your hat, and I put one in your chest, and your mama buries you in a box she can't afford. Pick. A long quiet. Pike picked. Pike was a man who had been told no for the first time in a decade, and who was finding out that no was not a word he had a plan for. He looked at Lily. He looked at Jack. He looked up the ridge. He looked at Wills, the boy who would not meet his eye. This ain't over, Turner. It is today. I'll be back. Then you'll be back to the same rifles, Pike, and the next time Silas won't shoot the dirt. Pike wheeled his horse. He rode 10 paces down the pass, and he reined up and he turned in the saddle. Lily, girl, don't. Lily, I want you to know something. I don't want to know nothing from you, Caleb. I want you to know that man up there is going to get tired of you. Same way every man gets tired of a woman like you. You remember who took you in when you had nothing. You remember who'll take you back when he don't want you no more. Jack moved. 1 step forward. Lily put her hand on his arm. Jack. Let me go, Lily. Jack, Turner, you look at me. He looked at her. He wants you to shoot him, Jack. He wants it. A bullet from you is the only way he wins this. Don't give it to him. Jack's jaw worked. He did not move forward. He did not step back. He stood where he was. Pike saw he had lost that too. He tipped his hat the way a man tips a hat when he is meant to draw and has not drawn. Ma'am? Ride on, Caleb. He rode on. 4 of his men went with him. The 5th did not. Will sat his horse in the trail and he watched Pike's back go down the pass. And when Pike was around the bend, the boy looked up at Jack with a face that had gone the color of old ash. Mister. Get off that horse, son. Wills got off. He stood in the yard with his hands held out from his sides so Jack could see them empty. I didn't know about the child. I swear to God I didn't know about the child. What did he tell you? He told us she run off with money. He told us she cooked for him and took a year's wages out the till on her way out. He told us she was a thief. She ain't. No, sir. I can see she ain't. Lily had lowered the shotgun. Her hands on it were steady, but her face was not. How old are you, son? 19, ma'am. What's your mama's name? Ruth, ma'am. Ruth what? Ruth Wills. She's still livin'? Yes, ma'am. Where? Kansas, ma'am. You get on that horse. You ride back down that pass. You go around Pike's men the long way. You get on a train to Kansas, and you do not come back to this country. Do you hear me? Yes, ma'am. Your mama don't need to bury you for a man like Caleb Pike. No, ma'am. The boy's eyes filled. He did not let the water out. He was 19 years old, and he had ridden up a mountain thinking he was bringing justice home, and he had found out in 10 minutes that he had been a gun for hire for a man who had no truth in him. Jack had seen that look on a boy's face in the war. He had pitied it then. He pitied it now. Son. Sir. One more thing. Sir. How many men has Pike got back of the pass? Will swallowed. More than 5. How many more? He sent word south, before we rode up. He told 3 more to meet him at the pass bottom by sundown tomorrow. And he said if he come down without her, they was all to ride up together. Jack felt Lily go still beside him. How many is all, son? 8, sir. 8 not countin' me. 8. Yes, sir, and 2 of 'em ain't cowhands. They're the other kind. The other kind? The kind a man hires when he don't care how it ends. Jack nodded once. Slow. Obliged, son. Sir? Go. The boy went. He rode back down the pass at a trot, and then a canter, and then a gallop. Jack watched him go. He did not take his eyes off the trail until the dust had settled. Silas came down off the ridge then, and 3 men with him, farmers. Jack had known all his life. Men who had not spoken to him more than twice since the fever, and who stood now in his yard holding rifles, like they had been holding them the whole time, and only just now set them down. Jack. Silas. I heard the boy. So did I. 8 men. Yes, sir. 2 of 'em ain't cowhands. No, sir. Silas looked at Lily. Lily met his eyes the way she had met Mrs. Hollis's eyes at the counter, and the way she had met Pike's across the yard. A woman who had learned in one morning how to stand up in her own life. Ma'am. Mr. Vance. We got till sundown tomorrow. Yes, sir. I'll ride now. I'll be back by dark with every man on this mountain'll come. How many'll come, Silas? Honest, Jack. Honest. 6, maybe 7. Old Henson's bad with the lung, but he'll send his boy. The Doyle brothers'll come. Reverend Combs'll come, and he can shoot better than he preaches, which is saying something. Mrs. Hollis's boy, Thomas, he's 17 and he'll stand. Maybe 1 or 2 more. That's 7 of us against 8 of them. That's with 2 of them being the other kind, Jack. I know it. We'll hold. Silas. Jack. Obliged. Don't be obliged. 3 years I ain't come up this hill. 3 years I told myself it was 'cause you wanted to be left alone. Truth is, I didn't know what to say to a man who'd lost what you lost. And I should have come anyway. Today's me comin' anyway. Jack's throat closed. He nodded. He did not trust his voice. Silas tipped his hat to Lily. Rode out. The farmers rode out with him. Jack stood in the yard a long while with the rifle across his arms, and the sun going down behind the ridge, and Lily stood beside him, and neither of them spoke. Finally she said, Jack. Yes, Lily. I didn't mean to bring 8 men up your mountain. You didn't bring 'em, Lily. They was always comin'. You just brought the reason to stop 'em. Jack. What? If I asked you right now to put me on a horse and send me down that pass with a week's food, would you do it? No. Jack. No, Lily. Why not? Because they'd catch you by nightfall and I'd live the rest of my life knowing I let you go. You'd live. I wouldn't. I'd eat and I'd breathe and I wouldn't live. I done that for 3 years already. I ain't doing it again. She turned to him. Full on. Her face in the last of the light. Jack Turner. Yes, Lily. I have been a lot of things to a lot of men. I've been a cook. I've been a debt. I've been a woman. Men looked past and men looked at for the wrong reasons. I ain't ever been a thing a man meant to stand between and a gun. You are now. I know it. Lily. Yes, Jack. If we live through tomorrow. Yes. I aim to ask you something. When the dust's down, When the guns is cleaned and the men is home and it's just the two of us at the table. I aim to ask you something, and I want you to think on it tonight so you know your answer when I ask. Ask me now, Jack. No. Why? Because if I ask you now, and you say yes, you're saying yes to a man with a gun on his hip and 8 riders coming. I want you to say yes to a man at a table with a clean plate and a crooked curtain and nothing on his hip. Or I want you to say no to that man, either way. But I want it to be that man you answer. She did not answer. She stepped into him. She laid her forehead against his chest. His arms came up around her slow the way a man who has not held another living body in 3 years learns to hold one again. I'll think on it, Jack. Good. Jack. Yes, Lily. Don't die tomorrow. I'll try my level best, Lily. They stood like that a while. The dark came down on the mountain. Inside the cabin, the crooked curtain moved in the window where she had hung it, and the fire she had banked that morning pulsed low. And on the mantel, the revolver lay untouched and at the foot of the pass. By the last light, a man was counting rifles and waiting for sundown. By midnight, the cabin was a fort. Silas had ridden in at dark with 6 men and a wagon of shot. By 10, the number was 7. By 11, it was 9. By midnight, Mrs. Hollis herself had come up the pass in a buckboard with 2 rifles, a crate of shells, and a jaw set like a man's. Mrs. Hollis. Jack Turner. Ma'am, a gunfight ain't no place for... Jack Turner, you finish that sentence, and I'll shoot you 'fore Pike gets the chance. Jack did not finish the sentence. She climbed down from the buckboard, and she walked past him into the cabin, and she set her rifles on the table, and she looked at Lily, who was pouring coffee for 9 men at 1 in the morning, and whose hands were not shaking. Miss Brooks. Mrs. Hollis. I did not come up this mountain to shoot a man. No, ma'am. I come up this mountain 'cause I will not have a woman in my town took from her own kitchen by a man with paper. Ma'am. You hear me? I hear you, ma'am. Good. Pour me one of them cups. Lily poured her one. Mrs. Hollis took it standing. She did not sit. In 40 years of keeping a mercantile, she had learned that a woman who sat down in a room full of armed men stopped being a woman the men listened to. The Doyle brothers were at the windows. Reverend Combs was on the roof with his sharps. Silas was at the door. Old Henson's boy, 14 and white around the mouth, was running shot from the wagon to the loading bench where Thomas Hollis, 17, was measuring powder with hands that wanted to be steadier than they were. Jack moved among them. He did not speak much. He touched each man's shoulder as he passed. He had not touched another human being with any regularity in 3 years, and now he was touching 9 in an hour, and each touch was a small thing, and each small thing said the same thing, which was, I see you here. I will remember you came. Jack. He turned. Lily at his elbow. Eat. I ain't hungry, Lily. Jack Turner, a man don't shoot straight on an empty belly. Eat. He ate, standing, a piece of cornbread and a strip of the salt pork. She watched him chew every bite. Lily. You doing all right? I'm doing. Your hands ain't shaking. Been over that, Jack. Tell me again. She looked up at him. Her eyes in the lamp were very dark and very clear. Because I ain't scared of dying, Jack. I've been ready to die 3 weeks. What I'm scared of is living through this and finding you didn't. Lily. That's my hand not shaking, Jack. He put his cornbread down. He put his hand on the back of her neck. He did not pull her in. He just laid his palm there, broad and warm a thing to hold her up if her legs gave. She closed her eyes 1 second too long. Lily? I want you in the root cellar when it starts. No. Lily. No, Jack. Lily Brooks. Jack Turner, I said no. They're comin' for you. Which is exactly why I ain't sittin' under the house while other people die for me. I'd sooner open the door and walk out to 'em. Don't say that. Then don't ask me to hide. He did not ask her again. He put the shotgun in her hands, and he showed her one more time how to brace it against her shoulder so it did not break her collarbone on the first shot. He showed her the window he wanted her at. Kitchen window, crooked curtain over it. He pulled the curtain to one side and pinned it with a nail. "When I yell down, you shoot through this window." "At what?" "At anything that moves in the yard that ain't one of ours. You see a hat we know you hold. You see a hat we don't, you pull." "All right." "Lily." "Yes, Jack." "You kill a man tonight, you are going to carry him. A woman like you, you'll carry him a long time." "I know it." "I just want you to know I know it." "I know you know it, Jack." He kissed her forehead. It was the first time he had kissed her. He did not mean it to be the way it came out. He had meant it to be a small thing, a thing between two soldiers before a fight. But his lips touched her skin, and he held them there, one heartbeat past what he had planned, and he felt her breathe in sharp, and he stepped back before either of them could say anything, and he went to the door where Silas was waiting. Silas had seen. Silas did not say a word about it. Silas said, "Rider." Jack went to the door. One rider, coming up the pass at a walk, hat low, hands held wide. "That ain't Pike." "No, it ain't." "Who?" "Lord have mercy, that's the Wills boy." It was. Wills. The 19-year-old Pike had brought up the mountain the day before, and that Lily had sent home to his mama in Kansas. He came into the yard with his hands up and his horse blowing hard. "Don't shoot." "Wills." "Don't shoot, mister. I got news." "Off the horse, son." He got off. Silas met him in the yard with a rifle not quite pointed at him. The boy did not argue with it. He held his hands where they could be seen. "I didn't make the train, Mr. Turner." "I can see you didn't." "I couldn't. I rode south like she told me. I got to the flat. I seen Pike's men there, 8 of 'em like I said, but there's more." "More?" "Mr. Pike rode down to Durango this morning. He hired 2 more guns, not the Kansas kind, the Mexico kind." Silas cursed low. "How many's that, son?" "10, sir. 10 men. And Mr. Pike himself." 11. "Yes, sir." Jack did not let his face change. He had learned in the war not to let his face change when the numbers went the wrong way. "When they ridin' up?" "First light." He changed the time. He said sundown was to let you sit in the dark and get scared. He said he'd come at dawn and take you tired. Silas and Jack looked at each other. It was 3 hours to dawn. "Son?" "Sir?" "Why'd you come back?" Will swallowed. His throat worked. "My mama's in Kansas, sir, but my sister was a cook." "Your sister was a cook?" "Yes, sir. She worked for a man in Dodge, like Mr. Pike. He paid her for a year, and then he said the pay was a debt, and the debt was her. She run. He found her. He killed her, Mr. Turner. He killed her, and the law said she was his to kill." He did not cry. He had cried it out somewhere on the road between here and the flat. His voice did not shake. That was worse than if he had cried. "I rode up this mountain yesterday thinking I was a hand. I rode down it thinking I was a fool. I rode back up it tonight, 'cause I will not sit in Kansas and eat my mama's bread while another cook goes in the ground for a man with paper." Jack put his hand on the boy's shoulder, hard. He could not speak for a moment. When he spoke, it was one word: inside. Wills went inside. Mrs. Hollis took one look at him and put a cup in his hand and a piece of cornbread and did not ask him anything. She could read a boy's face. Lily had been at the window. She came around the table. She did not speak. She walked up to Wills, and she took his face in her 2 hands, and she looked at him, and she said, "Son, your sister didn't go in the ground for nothing. Not now. You hear me?" "Yes, ma'am." "You keep that in your ribs tonight." "Yes, ma'am." Jack turned to Silas. 11. 11. "We got 10 with the boy." 10 ain't 11. "No, sir." "What you want to do, Jack?" Jack thought, fast. A man who had soldiered and who had run a ranch learned to think fast with 10 men waiting on his mouth. "We don't let 'em get to the yard." "How?" "The pass has one bend where the wall comes in close, 1/4 mile down. A man with a rifle on the east rock and another on the west rock can make that bend a bad place to ride through. 2 men. 4 rifles between 'em. They don't have to kill anybody. They just got to slow 'em. Who's going? Doyle brothers. They know that bend. They trapped elk off it for 20 years. All right. When Pike's men get bottled in the bend, the rest of us come down the trail on foot from both sides. We don't meet 'em in the yard. We meet 'em in the narrow. They can't flank. They can't ride around. They have to go forward or back. And if they go back, then we don't chase 'em. We let 'em go. I ain't killing a man I don't have to. Pike won't go back. No, Pike won't. But the Mexico men might. A hired gun hired for pay'll turn around when the pay ain't worth the bullet. Pike's the one we gotta take off his horse. Silas nodded slow. All right, Jack. All right. The Doyles went out first, moved on foot up into the rocks above the bend, took a lantern and hooded it. Took powder enough for a long afternoon they did not mean to spend. The rest of them cleaned rifles at the table, 9 men and 2 women and a boy. Nobody spoke much. Mrs. Hollis hummed a hymn under her breath while she oiled a trigger. Reverend Combs took the book down off the mantel where Jack's wife had left it 3 years before, and he read 3 verses aloud, and then he closed it, and he said, Lord, whatever you are fixin' to do with us tonight, we thank you for the privilege of being useful. Amen. 9 voices said, Amen. Lily's voice said it loudest. Jack took her into the back room a minute before they moved out. He shut the door. He did not touch her. Lily. Jack. Listen. I'm listening. If it goes wrong, if Pike gets past us, if he comes up the yard, you do not open the door. You do not try to talk him off it. You do not try to reason. You put that shotgun through that window, and you pull both barrels, and then you go out the root cellar door, through the cellar, up the back way, and you run for the Vance place. Silas's wife is waiting for you there. She'll take you in. Jack, promise me. Jack, I ain't... Lily Brooks, you promise me. She did not promise him. She stepped into him, and she put her arms around his neck, and she kissed him. Full on the mouth. Once. Hard. A kiss like a woman giving a word back to a man, the word she had not yet said, the word he had told her to think on. That's my answer, Jack Turner. Lily. You asked me to think on it. I thought on it. That's my answer. Now you come back and ask me the question at a table with a clean plate and nothing on your hip, and I will say it out loud. But if you don't come back... Lily. If you don't come back, Jack, you go with the answer. He could not speak. He pulled her in and he held her, and he pressed his face into the top of her hair, and he breathed her in one full breath, and then he let her go, and he went out. They moved down the pass on foot. Moccasins and soft boots. No lanterns. The moon had set. Jack had led men in the dark before, but he had not led men in the dark to keep something instead of take something, and keeping was a harder thing to lead for. A man knows how to take. Keeping a man has to learn each time. The bend was where he had said it was. They took positions. Silas and the Hollis boy on the east side low, Jack and Wills on the west higher. The farmers fanned behind. Reverend Combs on the high rock with the sharps. They waited. Gray came into the sky slow. A crow called once. A second crow answered. And then hoofbeats. Pike rode first. Of course he did. A man like Pike rides first because a man like Pike does not know what a bullet feels like and has not yet learned to be careful with his own body. Behind him, the 2 Mexico men. Behind them, the rest. 11 riders, coming up the pass at a trot. Jack waited till the first 4 were past the Doyle rocks. Then he whistled, once, short. The Doyle brothers fired, not at men, at horses. 2 shots. 2 horses went down in the narrow at the front of the column, and the riders behind them could not get by. A 3rd horse reared and threw its man into the rocks. The column bunched. Now! Every rifle on the ridge fired. Pike was off his horse in the first volley, not shot, dismounted screaming orders. The 2 Mexico men wheeled their horses and started shooting up into the rocks, 1 to each side, and they shot well, the way men who are paid well shoot. and Jack saw a farmer named Beal take a round through the shoulder and spin down off his rock. Beal. I'm all right. Stay down, Beal. Jack fired, missed, fired again. The Mexico man on the east crumpled. Jack did not feel what he expected to feel. He did not feel anything at all. A thing he had learned in the war and had not missed. Return fire chipped stone 2 inches from Jack's cheek. He went flat. Beside him, Wills fired again. Shouted something Jack could not hear over the guns. Wills's rifle went silent for a second, and Jack looked over thinking the boy was hit and saw him reloading with hands that did not shake. 19 years old and his sister's name in his teeth. Wills. Sir. The other Mexico man. I see him. Wills aimed and fired, and the second Mexico man went off his horse. Pike was behind a downed horse. Jack could see his hat, could not get an angle. 2 of Pike's hired men broke and ran. They left their horses in the narrow and climbed back down the pass on foot. Nobody shot them. Jack had said it, and the word had held: a man paid to fight gets to run when the pay goes bad. That left Pike and 4. 4 was still too many for a narrow bend. Silas. Yeah. I'm going down. Jack. Cover me. Jack Turner. Jack went down. He came off the rocks at a slide, and he was in the trail 10 feet behind Pike before Pike heard him. Pike spun. Raised his pistol. Jack did not raise his rifle. He did not have time. He hit Pike across the face with the rifle stock, and Pike's pistol went off into the dirt, and Pike went down on one knee, and Jack put his boot on Pike's wrist and broke it, and Pike screamed. Pike! Turner! Listen to me. Pike was not listening. Pike was reaching for his other pistol with his good hand. Jack stepped on that wrist too. Pike was a man on his knees in a pass with both wrists pinned and his horse dead and his men running. Pike was a man who had never been this man before, and it was killing something in him faster than any bullet could. Pike! Kill me, Turner. I ain't gonna kill you. Kill me. No, sir. I'm gonna let the law kill you. I got a boy yonder whose sister you killed in Dodge. I got a paper in your coat that won't read in a courtroom. I got 9 witnesses. I'm gonna hand you to a Marshal Pike, and I'm gonna sit in the front row when they hang you, and I'm gonna eat supper after. Turner. Shut up. Pike shut up. Behind him, the last of Pike's men threw down their rifles. The fight was over. It had taken maybe 4 minutes. Jack had been in fights that took hours, and he had been in fights that took seconds, and he had learned that the hours ones changed you less than the seconds ones did. Silas came down off the rocks. Jack? Silas. Beal's shoulder. He'll keep. Anybody else? Reverend took a ricochet to the calf. He's cussin'. Man cusses, man's alive. Pike's men. 2 dead in the narrow. The 2 Mexico men is dead. 4 runners we let go. 1 here alive, broke-wristed your boot on him. Good. Jack. Yeah. You all right? Jack could not answer for a second. He was thinking about Lily at the kitchen window with the shotgun. He was thinking about how he had not fired the last bullet of the fight. He had hit a man with a rifle stock instead of shooting him, and he had not thought about it, and he understood that somewhere in the night between midnight and dawn, he had stopped being a man who would shoot himself. I'm all right, Silas. Go on up the hill. The prisoner? I got him. Go on, Jack. Jack went. He came into the yard at a run. He came up on the porch. The door opened before he could touch it. She stood in it with the shotgun still in her hands and her hair half down and her face the color of flour. And when she saw him, her knees gave, and he caught her before she went down, and he held her on the porch of the cabin. She had hung a crooked curtain in, and neither of them could speak for a long minute. Jack? I'm here. You're here. I'm here, Lily. Jack. I come back. You come back. He sat her down on the porch step. He sat with her. He did not let go of her hand. Inside the cabin, Mrs. Hollis was stoking the fire up because there were 9 men and 1 boy and 2 women coming back off a ridge, and they would need coffee and bread and whatever else a cabin could give them. And the cabin, for the first time in 3 years, had it all to give. Jack turned Lily's face to him with one finger under her chin. Lily. Yes, Jack. I'm coming to that table. Yes, Jack. I'm coming to that table and I'm sitting at that plate and I ain't got nothing on my hip. Yes, Jack. And I'm gonna ask you. Yes, Jack. Lily Brooks, will you marry me? Yes, Jack Turner. Yes. Yes, 100 times yes. He pulled her in. He held her there on the porch step with the sun coming up over the ridge and 9 men walking up out of the pass behind them, and a broken man bound to a saddle at the rear, and he held her a long time, and neither of them cried because they had done their crying already, in the nights before they had known about each other, and this was something else. This was the beginning of the part where a body does not cry anymore. The marshal came on a Tuesday. He took Pike off the ranch in irons and a rope, and Pike did not look at Jack, and he did not look at Lily, and he did not look at the Wills boy who stood on the porch with his hat in both hands, and who watched the rider go around the bend with an expression that was not satisfaction and was not peace, but was something quieter than either. Son? Mr. Turner? You going home now? I reckon I am, sir. Kansas. Kansas. Your mama know you're comin'? No, sir, I ain't sent word. Why not? I wasn't sure I was. Jack nodded. He understood that. A man who has ridden out of his mother's house once thinking he was a man comes back a second time, not sure what he is. Jack pulled a folded bill from his pocket, put it in the boy's hand. Train fare, and then some. Mr. Turner, I can't. Boy. Sir. Take it. A man pays his debts. I owe you one. You rode back up that mountain when you didn't have to. You pulled a trigger on a man you rode in with. Kansas ain't far enough for a boy to carry what you carried last night without $1 in his pocket. Sir. Take it. Wills took it. He did not say thank you. His throat would not let him. He looked at Lily. Ma'am. Son. I'll write my mama your name. Is that all right? Yes, son. What you want me to tell her? Lily thought about it, her hands on her apron. Tell her there's a cook up in Colorado whose own daughter would have been your sister's age near enough. And tell her that cook says her boy is a good boy. Tell her that. He could not answer. He put his hat on. He rode out. He did not look back, because a boy who looks back falls off his horse, and Wills had learned that much in 4 days on a mountain. Jack and Lily stood on the porch till he was gone. Then a long while after. Jack. Lily. I am tired all the way through my bones. I know it. Come inside. They went inside. She sat down at the table. He set coffee in front of her. Not the other way around. She looked up at him with a question in her face, and he answered it with a small shake of his head. You cook this cabin back to a home, Lily. I reckon I can pour a cup of coffee once in a while. Reckon you can. They married 9 days later. There was no wire to send and nobody to send it to. Lily had no family. Jack had none left either. So the wedding was the town, and the town was enough. Reverend Combs, still limping from the ricochet in his calf, stood in front of them in the little church in Creed. Mrs. Hollis sat in the front row in a hat she had not worn since her own husband's funeral 12 years before, because a hat a woman had kept folded that long deserved a wedding to come out for. Silas stood up with Jack. Mrs. Vance stood up with Lily. The Doyle brothers were in the back with their rifles leaned against the pew, because old habits do not leave a man in a week, and nobody minded. Lily wore a dress Mrs. Hollis had sewn from 2 bolts of calico. It was not white. White did not show a body right, Mrs. Hollis had said, and Lily was a body that ought to be shown right, and Lily had not argued because she had spent 6 years being told to take up less, and she had decided the morning Jack asked her on the porch step that she was finished with that. She walked down the aisle and addressed the color of new corn. And Jack saw her, and his face did a thing his face had not done in 3 years, which was that it broke open. Lily. Jack. Lily. Hush, Reverend's waitin'. Reverend can wait. Reverend Combs waited. He would have waited an hour. He had said as much to Mrs. Hollis that morning. The vows were short. The kiss was long. When Jack pulled back, Lily's cheeks were wet, and his were too, and the town which had watched Jack Turner bury his wife and his boy 3 years before, and had not known what to do with a man that broken, watched him now kiss a woman in front of God and the Doyle brothers, and clapped until the roof shook. Mrs. Hollis had baked a cake, 3 layers. She had not baked a cake that size since her own daughter's wedding. She set it on a table in the churchyard, and she cut the first piece herself, and she put it on Lily's plate, and she said loud enough for the whole town to hear, "This is Mrs. Turner's cake. And from this day forward, anybody in this town who has an unkind word about the size of the woman who eats it will answer to me personal." Nobody had an unkind word. Hank, who had sat at the mercantile counter a lifetime ago and laughed at the wrong thing, came up later with his hat in his hand. He did not look at Jack. He looked at Lily. "Mrs. Turner." "Mr. Hank." "I was a low man that mornin' in the store." "Yes, sir, you was." "I'd ask your pardon." She looked at him a long moment. She did not owe him a pardon. She did not owe anyone anything. She had stopped owing the day she had stood in a yard with a shotgun and said her piece to Caleb Pike. "Mr. Hank." "Ma'am?" "I'll give you a pardon. And I'll give you a piece of this cake, and that's the last we speak of that mornin'." "Yes, ma'am." "Eat your cake, Mr. Hank." He ate his cake. He cried into it a little. A grown man in a churchyard crying into cake is a thing a town remembers, and Creed remembered it. They went home to the ranch that evening. The first snow came a week later, and then the real winter, and the real winter up there was a thing that did not let go of a mountain till April. They survived it the way people survive winters up there, which is by having enough wood and enough salt pork, and by having another body in the bed. Jack slept in the bed for the first time in 3 years on the first night of the marriage. He had thought he would not be able to. He had thought the ghost of his wife would sit on the footboard and look at him. But no ghost came. His wife, wherever she was not that kind of ghost. Lily lay beside him, and she put her hand flat on his chest over his heart, and she fell asleep like that. And Jack lay awake a long time, and listened to her breathe, and understood that the dead do not begrudge the living their living. Only the living do that. He took the tin cup out of the trunk in February. He set it on the mantel next to the revolver. Neither got picked up much after that. Both stayed. Lily understood why. She did not ask. In March, she told him she was with child. She told him at the table, over breakfast. She put the plate down, and she sat down across from him, and she said it plain the way she said most things. "Jack." "I'm carryin'." He did not speak for a long time. She watched his face. She had prepared herself for any face, a face of joy, a face of fear, a face of grief for the boy who had died in the trundle by the bed. She had told herself whichever face came she would meet it. What came was all 3 at once. Lily. Jack? How sure? 3 months sure. 3 months? I didn't want to tell you till I was past the dangerous part. Mrs. Hollis told me when to tell. I trusted Mrs. Hollis. 3 months. Jack, say something else. He got up from the table. He walked around it. He pulled her up out of her chair, and he held her standing in the middle of the kitchen. He held her the way a man holds a thing he has been afraid to hold. Jack. I'm scared, Lily. I know. I'm scared of it. I know, Jack. What if... Don't ask the what if. I ask it every night. It don't have an answer. Ain't no answer I can give you. Lily. Put your hand here. He put his hand on her belly. There was not yet much to feel, but he felt her warmth through her dress, and he felt her heartbeat against his palm, and he understood that the baby was not yet the thing he was holding. He was holding his wife, and his wife was holding the baby, and that was the order of things for now, and the order would change in its time. I'm coming with you through it. I know, Jack. Every step. I know. Lily. Yes, Jack. If it goes bad, it ain't gonna go bad. If it does, then we carry it, Jack, like we carried the other ones. We carry 'em in our ribs, and then we keep going, because that's what you do. He nodded. He pressed his forehead to hers. He did not try to stop his eyes. He had stopped trying to stop his eyes. A man who has made it to the other side of what he had made it through did not need to hold his face together anymore. The baby came in November. It was hard. Mrs. Hollis came up the pass and stayed 3 days. Mrs. Vance came with her. Silas sat on the porch the whole of the second night and the whole of the second day. And he did not go home, and he did not eat, because a neighbor is a thing. A man is in the hours when it costs him, not in the hours when it does not. Lily labored 18 hours. Jack was in the room for every one of them. Mrs. Hollis had tried to put him out, and Lily had said no, and Mrs. Hollis had said fine, and Jack had held his wife's hand through every wave of it, and twice he thought he was going to lose her. And twice Mrs. Hollis had looked at him over Lily's body and said sharp, "She's fine, Jack Turner, get a hold of yourself." And both times he had. The baby came at 4:10 in the morning. It was a girl. She was pink, and she was loud, and she was whole. Mrs. Hollis put her on Lily's chest, and Lily looked down at her, and Lily did not say anything at first. She looked at Jack. Jack? Yeah. Look at her. I'm looking, Lily. She's here. She's here. She's here, Jack. She's here. He sat down on the bed. He put his arm around Lily's shoulders. He put his other hand very careful on the baby's head. She was smaller than his palm. Her hair was damp and dark. She opened her eyes and she looked for a second right up at him the way a baby looks who does not yet know that looking is supposed to mean anything. "Hello?" She did not answer. She closed her eyes again. Lily. What's her name? Lily had thought about this a long time. She had thought about it in the nights when she could not sleep in the months of carrying. She had not told him because she had wanted to see the baby first. A body did not name a child before the child was in her arms. She had learned that the hard way with the child who had been Sarah. Emma? Emma. If that's all right with you. Emma. She ain't a replacement, Jack. I know. She's her own. I know. She's not Sarah. She's not Samuel. I know, Lily. She's a bridge. A bridge. From what we lost to what we got. Jack could not answer. He bent his head and he put his forehead against Lily's temple, and he stayed there a long minute. Outside down the hall, Silas was crying on the porch, and Mrs. Vance was crying in the kitchen, and Mrs. Hollis, who never cried, was wiping her hands on her apron with an expression on her face that a woman wears maybe 4 times in a life. Emma Turner. Born at the tail end of a hard year in a cabin on a mountain in Colorado, to a cowboy who had sat once with a gun under his chin, and to a plus-sized woman who had walked 200 miles carrying nothing but a dented pot. They raised her. That is the rest of it, and there is no shorter way to say it. They raised her. The ranch came back. The cattle came back. Lily started baking bread for the town, and then pies, and then a whole kitchen's worth of what a town could want. And men who rode up from Creed for beef left with their saddlebags full of her bread, because Lily Turner's bread was a thing the county started to talk about. She opened a bakery in Creed in the spring of Emma's 4th year. She kept the ranch kitchen, too. She hired the Wills boy's cousin who had come out from Kansas and stayed. She put a sign over the door of the bakery that said Brooks and Turner, because she had kept her own name on it, too, and Jack had insisted on that, because he had said once in bed, "Lily the Brooks that walked up that mountain saved my life. Brooks deserves a sign." And she put a second sign smaller inside the shop, hand-painted, that said, "All welcome, all sizes, all seen." A woman came in. Once a woman Lily did not know heavier than Lily, and the woman stood in the doorway, and she read that second sign, and she started crying. And Lily came out from behind the counter, and she put her arms around that stranger, and she held her there without a word for a long time, because sometimes a sign says a thing a woman has been waiting her whole life to hear, and the saying of it undoes her. That woman came back every Tuesday after, for years. The ranch that had once been a place where a man waited to die became a place where people came to eat. Silas and Mrs. Vance ate Sunday supper there till they were too old to ride up the pass, and then Jack and Lily rode down to them. Mrs. Hollis sold the mercantile to her son Thomas, who had loaded powder at 17 in a cabin under siege, and Mrs. Hollis came up to live in the room off the kitchen for the last 5 years of her life. And she died in that room, with Lily holding one of her hands and Jack holding the other. And her last words were, "You keep that bakery open, Lily Turner, till the day you can't need no more." Lily kept it open. Emma grew. She grew into a dark-eyed girl with her mother's steady hands and her father's quiet, and she learned to ride at 5, and to bake at 6, and to shoot at 12. Because her father said a woman on a mountain ought to know, and her mother said a woman anywhere ought to know, and neither of them would teach her to take a thing she did not need to take, but both of them taught her to keep a thing she did. On her 18th birthday, she asked her mother a question.